Gun owners of Reddit, what is your reason to own firearms? I'm a 125 pounds woman who lives alone in the country.
I like shooting inanimate targets.
I was kidnapped as a child. I was very lucky my captor didn't make it far with me. Then as a young adult I was sexually assaulted. I own a gun for self-defense. I don't ever want to be a victim again.
I grew up in a small town staffed by 4 cops. Dialing 911 wouldn't do a thing.
I grew up around guns. My father owned guns and we were taught that they were not toys. Before we could ever use them, he required us to receive formal training in their use. I have grown up respecting them as tools. About 12 years ago, my wife, son and I were coming home from picking up 2 of my son's friends so they could spend the weekend with us. We came home to find 2 men robbing our house. I held the 2 thieves at gunpoint while my wife called the cops. We live in a rural town near a river and there is only one bridge across the river about 10 miles away. It took the cops nearly 20 minutes to get there. What would have happened if I wasn't armed I can't say, but I can say I am forever glad they chose to comply with my commands and didn't escalate the threat and I never was put in a position to have to fire.
To defend my livestock from predators.
I do shooting sports. Edit.
Don't need a reason.
I like venison. Deer are notoriously hard to catch with a rope, especially at distance. With a properly sighted rifle, I've been able to harvest some delicious hot dogs, jerky, and bacon at 100 yards safely.
Self-defense. Where I live there are regular home invasions that sometimes result in death and I cannot rely on police to arrive in time to protect me. By the time they arrive I will already have been dead for 20 minutes. An NBSP. Edit. Since this got a lot of interest I will provide some extra information. I live in South Africa, out on the plots on the outskirts of a city. These plots are small-scale commercial farms with dairy cattle, orchards, butcheries, animal nurseries, etc. Homes here are quite isolated and far apart. If you scream, your neighbors won't hear you. Even in the city suburbs home invasions are common. People will drive around and if they see a homeowner outside their property they will pull up, jump out, put a gun against the homeowner's head and make them take them into the house and disclose all their valuables. Or they break in and catch the people inside off guard. A high school friend of mine lost his father in a midnight home invasion. His father was shot in the head in bed as he slept. Another schoolmate lost his grandfather when a robber climbed over the wall and shot his grandfather in their backyard. My cousin's ex-boyfriend was shot through the neck and killed by home invaders when he managed to untie himself and tried fleeing the house. They ran after him and just outside the front door they got him. And then on the street, rural dirt road, where I live one family was held at gunpoint for 3 hours as their house was cleaned out. Just 4 houses away from me an old couple who own a bed and breakfast were tied up while the invaders cleaned out their house. One of them boiled water in the kettle and then poured it over the legs of the old man. This happened in 2019 when I was at university. I phoned one of my classmates right in the middle of a home invasion at his house. I phoned him because we were writing a test the next day and I needed some help understanding some of the math we would be tested on. He didn't answer the phone. Instead it was some angry-sounding guy who screamed at me over the phone at the top of his lungs, "I don't want to talk to you," and then hung up. I phoned the police thinking that someone had stolen my friend's phone, but never followed up. The next day at university my friend showed up with his leg bandaged. He told us about the home invasion. He was tied up with his mother, his father was overseas on a business trip. One of the criminals cut his calf with a machete. He managed to successfully escape to the neighbor's house though and phoned the police, and was told they were made aware earlier of a possible robbery at their address, by me. The police arrived not long after but upon realizing that my friend had escaped the invaders had left the property and so the police unfortunately did not catch them. Every so often you hear some good news, that a homeowner managed to successfully thwart an invasion by discharging their weapon. In a house 1 road away from me, a homeowner shot and hit an invader on their stairwell. The criminals managed to get away in a vehicle but there was a trail of blood leading down the stairs and outside the house. Hopefully the crook didn't make it and got dumped somewhere in a shallow grave by his accomplices. I inherited a shotgun and a pistol. Whenever I'm home alone the pistol does not leave my side and the shotgun is hid in a place where I can quickly grab it but no one will be able to find it.
Life. Aside from hunting and helping farming relatives defending their cattle, the following really drove the need home. Working in high school a guy came at me with a knife to get into my workplace. Luckily my manager carried and was following me out and pulled his weapon. Guy stopped real quick. Shortly after high school, A 50-plus-year-old creeper waited behind the dumpster at work to jump a 15-year-old coworker. The manager there also carried and ended that. Also real quick. Friend marries a woman with baggage. Her ex breaks into their place at night and attacks with a knife. He kept a gun on the nightstand and the ex ceased to be a threat. Fast forward and my son's just been born and now I've taken the hint and got a gun. In a new city and a man breaks into our home. Got the drop and he tore off. Nobody died in any but number 3. But I know for a fact at this point that my military parents and grandparents were always right. Guns are tools. And like all tools, it's the person holding them that determines how good or bad the work done with them is. Edit, since I've seen several comments with some misconceptions, let me reiterate that 3 was a friend and not me, and all were in 3 different areas over a large amount of time. I'm 37 and have moved around a lot, and the more places you go the more you can get into strange circumstances.
I have 2 small children and a wife. Police are unreliable and I'd rather go to court than my children's funeral.
I was followed and had a gun pointed at me in broad daylight with my baby in the car. I never want to be in a situation where I can't defend myself again.
Well, I unfortunately lost all my firearms in a boating accident. But prior to that, 1 protection, 2 sport, 3 fun, 4 BC I can.
I was receiving texts from someone who claimed to know me, and knew a lot of stuff about me. This person was threatening me with stalking and rape. I filed a police report and bought a handgun. I advised the person what I had done, received a couple more texts and then nothing.
I don't own any guns right now. But I've been a first responder for years. When seconds count, police are only minutes away. I've seen this with my own eyes. Edit for clarification. Often minutes away is a best case scenario. YMMV. Not advice.
If you live in my neighboring city of Kennesaw, Georgia, you're required to have one, per a law passed in.
I am gay and have had death threats that listed the make and model of my car with places I frequented. So yeah, I am not taking chances. I also find the art of marksmanship really fun. I would compete if it wasn't prohibitively expensive.
I have a conceal and carry license because I'm a woman. I don't want to get raped or assaulted.
I tried throwing rocks at deer.
2 reasons, I collect historical firearms, and the town I live in has a bit of a crime problem. Imagine breaking into my house and you see a naked guy yelling about King Victor Emmanuel while affixing a bayonet on a 130-year-old rifle. Edit, the firearm in question is an Italian Vetterli manufactured in the late 1800s and converted during an emergency in World War I to fire 6.5 Carcano like the standard Italian Carcano rifle of the day. To those who guessed Italian, I'm proud. Got a World War I era No. 1 Mk3 Lee Enfield I'm restoring, the previously mentioned Vetterli, and a Norinco Tokarev for concealed carry, because if I'm packing heat I'm doing it Soviet style. That's the extent of my collection so far.
I enjoy target shooting and like having the option to defend myself should the need arise.
Shooting is a very relaxing activity. I like punching holes in pieces of paper at varying distances. I hunt for food. The history of firearms is pretty cool, kind of like old cars.
I was told to dial 911 when in trouble, but I know .357 is faster.
I live and work in the hood.
From Parks and Rec. Leslie. Why do you have so many guns? Ron's mom. This is America, isn't it? Leslie. Yes, Ron's mom. Then I don't have to answer stupid questions while standing on my own property.
Because I can. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Because they're fun, and as tools of defense they're better than submission or waiting for the cops.
We have 1 AR, 1 shotgun, and 1 Glock. For us it's just the same as having a fire extinguisher. It's something that you wish you never have to use, but if that day ever comes, you'll be glad to have it. The world is a crazy place and you just never know. I'm by no means a gun nut, but I was in the military and I did have to serve 3.5 years overseas. Numerous tours in the Middle East. The world is one scary ass place. Horrible things happen and horrible people exist. I pray America never turns that way. But if beep goes wild and we have to get the beep out of Dodge, I'll be glad to have that AR on my back when it's my job to protect my wife and 3 kids. Because you can bet your ass, they will have guns. Whomever they may be.
Sport shooting, self-defense, because I like engineering, and because it's my right. And no, I'm not American.
Hunting and defense.
They're fascinating little things, also plinking soothes the soul.
About 5 years ago I, F32, was traveling alone on a road trip and part of it was on a desolate highway through Wyoming. I had to use the toilet and finally came to a rest stop. I pulled my truck right up to the front of the women's bathroom door and took my firearm with me. When I got out of my vehicle it was deathly quiet. There were 4 semi-trucks in the lot pretty far away and I didn't see anyone outside, but I had this eerie feeling. It was in March so it was pretty cold and I had a big jacket on. My weapon was concealed. Anyway, I go in and start doing my business. About midway through the main door opens and I hear footsteps. Mind you, it's quiet so if someone were to pull up I would have heard it. The person slowly starts walking so I peek under the booth and see a man's boots. They stop right in front of the stall I'm in and I can hear him breathing. I pull out my pistol, pull back the slide, and aim it at the door. Anyone who owns a gun can attest that is an unmistakable sound. Without either of us saying a thing the man quickly walks out of the bathroom. My heart is pounding and I'm freaked out thinking this man could be waiting outside for me. I had no cell reception. I quickly cleaned myself up and exited the building, gun in hand and drawn. The man who came into the restroom out of nowhere was gone like he'd vanished into thin air. I checked my vehicle before I got in and quickly got back on the road. The rest of the trip I only stopped at busy truck stops or gas stations. Another incident. A few months ago I was hiking with my dog and encountered a mountain lion. Thank goodness I had my pistol with me because my dog was terrified but I was ready to protect both of us. We got away safely. I started to carry about 8 years ago when I was single and did a lot of things alone. Being 5'4" and walking to my car at night after the gym, eating out, etc. It's scary to think that a person will try to overpower you and not having a way to defend yourself can happen when you least expect it.
Because the government is not going to protect me or you.
I was robbed at gunpoint once, got a gun after that.
The rest of you people are my reason.
Nice try, FBI.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to subscribe to Upvote for the best quality content every day.